This is Trophy Gold, the Swirling Court. The last time we saw the characters, they had returned from the incursion they were at, which was the prison of the hated pretender. And there was an invitation given to revel, but for everyone. An invitation from a wizardly order called the Swirling Court. And this is specifically the Amberay chapter of the Swirling Court. There are probably chapters in every major city in the setting. And you didn't catch the name of the fellow who invited you, but he may turn up again. And so I think a number of days, maybe a couple of weeks have passed, and you've managed to get the group together. You've arrived in Amberay in order to attend this party. Amberay, of course, is kind of the grand capital city of the kingdom that we're sort of playing in. And I'm not going to focus too much on Amberay. We're going to get kind of straight to the manor house where the party is being held, or this sort of like little dinner party, because they want to hear about your stories, because basically they have managed to figure out that you were in communication with a god king of Old Kaldur, maybe the only one that's still alive or around, or alive in the case of the one that you encountered. And they just want to hear your stories. They want to hear like how it went. They want to hear what you learned, if anything. And in exchange, they're going to treat you to a nice meal and a night out on the town, if you know, or a couple of nights out in the town on them after you're done, right? So we're going to zoom right up to it. I want to know for each of you, in what way have you adjusted or enhanced your appearance, maybe your state of dress, in order to attend this little gathering? Like, how do you look different? How have your clothes changed? Have you gussied up, right? Whoever has a thought, say so.
I think Revel has taken an effort to cover up the not quite matching patches of his jacket with a more subdued black, and he's wearing as nice a shirt underneath that he can afford. He feels more than a little awkward in Amberay with what he would consider Popper's clothing, but it's better than what he had. He has his hair slicked back and his finest feather earrings.
Fantastic. What about you, Orlin?
I think like I've done the equivalent of rent a tux. Like I, whatever, somewhere where I can, like a, and I suspect this is less a formal thing than like maybe there's a like, I know someone who, maybe avails themselves of the apartments and manor houses of the wealthy who won't miss just one or two of their many outfits, and they loan them out to their less reputable friends, for a few coppers or something, when for an evening or two when they need to look more respectable. So basically, like I've got something that's probably like 2 or 3 years out of fashion, doesn't quite fit, but it's not outrageous. So I'm going to fit in reasonably well, I think.
Indeed.
But I got to be careful that I bring it back to him in one piece.
Terrific, thank you. Horgest.
So Horgest, in the intervening 2 weeks, was fortunate enough. He's a resourceful man and also a skinflint, so he didn't want to buy anything. So what he did is he found the body of a member of a monastic order who dress in white habits down one of the alleyways in the sort of not particularly good side of town that he's living on, and he's managed to make his own reagent to bleach it white, and then he's used some of the leftover jade from his finger conversion to create a brilliant green dye that he is 50 to 60% sure is not toxic, that he has treated the habit with. So he now has a brilliant green habit, the color of his green jade fingers, that may or may not be either lethally flammable and or toxic.
Very good. You are given the address to the townhouse where the Ombre branch of the Swirling Court lives. And it is a townhouse. It's a sort of more vertical building, right? A few stories. And it's kind of just cram jam in between other townhouses. And this part of Ombre, when you arrive, it's kind of early evening. There are lots of people going to and fro, like to various parties and gatherings and things, right? There is one very particular fabulous masquerade ball that you've been hearing about, but you're not going to that. You're going to this private dinner party. And you get there, the entrance to the place seems to open up by itself, and you step into what appears to be, it's like a sort of main entry hall. It's a portrait hall. There are paintings of presumably other members, past members of the Swirling Court, adorning walls. The lights are all candles behind glass cloches affixed to the wall. And there are statues and things as well. The Swirling Court has this sort of a great love of art and painting and color. And you are eventually summoned as you step in. You're summoned into a little salon where your fellow dinner celebrants are there waiting on you. And the salon has a little seating area. There's a little library of books. There is in the salon a rather strange, unusual glass cube that sort of dominates the room. It's just a kind of empty glass cube. And you're greeted by the various members of the Swirling Court who live here. There are 6 of them. And you don't recognize the one that invited you at all. Revel, there's no sign of him at all. It's been 6 others. They'll introduce themselves, and I will. I have made a tab for you on your sheet called Characters and Clues. You are welcome to use that tab to fill in the names of the various characters as I introduce them to you. You will meet Grandmaster Deanna Therm. I shall type that for you. Who seems to be in charge of the affair. You will meet Grandmaster Twell Seventhop, who seems to think he's in charge of everything, but Deanna is actually in charge of everything. You will meet Archmasters Zan Morcus and Van Morcus, twins in their early 30s. And then 2 residents who are sort of young, recent entries into the order, what you would like to be someday, Revel. This is resident Sylvia Rain and resident Jackson Bell. It's all very pleasant and chatty for about half an hour. Trying to get to know you. They want to hear your stories. No one's rude. Everyone's very polite and very interested in learning about you. The things that are maybe unusual about you are things that they are intrigued by, but not in a rude way. And you can sense there's some kind of weird tension going on with them, but maybe it's just always that way, you know, when you get a collection of sort of academic wizards in one place, maybe this is just how things are. But in any case, a sort of paint the scene question for everybody. You've been here for about half an hour, dinner's not yet served. And I want to know, in what subtle ways does the magical nature of the residents here express itself, either in the environment or with the people itself? And in particular, how is color used in this magical expression? Think about it for a moment, and if you have an idea, speak.
I think maybe the floor tiles, when horror guest looks down, he recognizes that all of the flooring is actually a geomantic array, like it's a sort of machine, a magical design, but it seems to have been made out of sort of semi-precious, like color complementing, because I'm assuming maybe geomancy has a color wheel, but they're sort of the stones that are on the floor are made in a way that they channel magic or amplify it in some way, a very sophisticated way.
Fantastic, thank you.
I think, like the old man that invited Revel, all of their clothing kind of subtly moves and swirls gently, as if it's underwater. And with the Grandmasters, at least, the colors of their clothes are, if you look away and look back, it's not quite what you remember it being. You never actually see it change.
Nice.
I think the thing that Orland notices for sure is that the entire place is creepily clean. That I have never seen brass that is not covered in a patina of like dust and soot and like gunk in the air from the city, whatever, grease floating over from the tannery and stuff like that. And so like everything, at least to Orland's eye, everything looks a little unreal because it is all like its original, beautiful, unblemished surface that I'm looking at everything all the time in this whole place. Like it is clean to a level that would only be possible if it is being somehow magically scoured of whatever it was that would normally settle on its, whatever patina would normally accrue to it here in the city, because the air is pretty filthy around here most of the time. So
it's as if everything is like a painting, maybe, like,
yeah, something
newly,
like that. Exactly.
newly created,
Yes, yeah, it's
right?
all this kind of idealized look, and I mean, and I think that even extends to us. Like if I look in a mirror, my hair looks different because it's not like it's just always perpetually greasy. And when I look in them, and then like we come through here and we walk around, and I don't think we realize it happens, but like we've been kind of buffed and scrubbed just by being here.
Fabulous, thank you. Dinner is eventually served, and you are escorted to the dining room, which is just across the way from the salon, connects up to that sort of main hall on the ground floor. And the dining room is small in the sense that it doesn't have a particular grandeur about it, but the table is quite big. It seats about 12, and there are candlesticks and chandeliers up above. But it has an intimacy to it. It has a warmth. It has an intimacy. It's not a great arched ceiling. It's a space that feels close. The food is served by servants who are seemingly invisible, but wearing livery and powdered wigs. So you don't see their faces, you don't see their hands, you don't see their, any part of their body. You just see like the wig and the coat and the breeches, right? And the servants are going around and serving the food, and all this is very nice. Everyone there is very pleasant and polite, even to the invisible servants. And the food is fantastic. It's very good. And at a certain point, Grandmaster Deanna Thurm, who sits at the head of the table, will sort of address everyone, particularly the three of you. Now, you've already kind of, I think at this point, you've already sort of told your story about the prison of the hated pretender, right? Maybe you can hold back whatever details you wish or embellish whatever you wish. They just want to hear it. They just want to hear what you have to say. But when there's a lull in the conversation, though, Grandmaster Deanna Thurm, who is a pretty transparently a man in drag, but no one comments on it or cares. But she says, and I'll tell you, at this point, when you're looking at her, you didn't notice the color change, but her robes are in a sort of, she's wearing robes and a gown that are sort of like in a deep sort of purple and saffron yellow. And she has like quite an ornate sort of like hair situation going on, lots of braids and things, just kind of swirling mishmash on top of her head. And she says, I don't know if you have picked up on it yet or not, but well, I'm sad to say that you've managed to catch us at a rather unfortunate time. We didn't anticipate that we would currently be experiencing something that is causing us a bit of anxiety. We all are doing our best to put on a good face for you, for our guests, but, well, and then I think at this point, Zan Morgus will say, just get on with it, Deanna. Just say it. And Deanna says, well, the head of our chapter, Grandmaster Theluvius Arcpenney, has gone missing. We don't know where he's at. This happened just a few nights ago. No one saw him leave. And we haven't been able to turn up anything, I'm afraid. And it's causing a bit of consternation, as you might imagine. And indeed, there does seem to be a weird tension about it, right? Deanna says, we were speaking earlier today, and we thought perhaps the three of you might be able to lend us a hand. You clearly have some magical talent of your own, and you have proven yourself to be able to handle yourself well in situations that are intense or frightening or scary or perplexing, as this particular situation is. We would be happy to reward you generously, even, if you can figure out what happened to Theluvius. And here I will mention, Revel, that Grandmaster Theluvius Arcpenney is the person who invited you, who's not here right now. And I'll remind you all that your burdens are not in play for this session, and any treasures or rewards that you manage to get your hands on by the end of this, you just go straight to Hearthfire with no need to meet burdens, so you can do whatever you wish with that. Yeah, but basically the question is posed, like, while we're here, we'll give you the run of the place, and maybe you could give us some insight. They'll say, I think Grandmaster Twell will speak up. He is a very small man. They actually have to get like a little riser for him to sit on, so that he is kind of up and visible at the dining table. And he's wearing like kind of quite vibrant red puffy robes. And he says, well, they're red right now anyway. He says, we are, you have to understand that we are, this is all a bit unusual for us, and we have a bit of a blind spot when it comes to, well, our own members. We all have our own theories and biases, don't we? And we're all very focused on our work, and I think that fresh eyes would be very, very helpful in a circumstance like this. Perhaps that is what Deanna means to say. What do you all say?
I fear we're going to need you to be a bit more explicit than simply generously.
Deanna says, well, I suppose while Theluvius is missing, I am empowered to make the offer. We will pay you handsomely in either coin or perhaps a magical treasure, something we have laying about. The choice will be yours. And out of character specifically, it will be the equivalent of either 3 gold or a magical treasure.
Cool.
For each
I
of
kind
you.
of raise an eyebrow to my 2 companions. Like, does that work for the 2 of you? Mhm.
Revel will just shoot him like a really hard, like, don't you mess this up for me.
Okay. All right. So I kind of, those terms are acceptable. And I hold up my hand and I say, I'll need your keys. If we're to truly have the run of the place, we'll need the run of the place.
And Deanna says, well, we're happy to escort you wherever you wish to go.
That's not the run of the place.
And they all kind of look at each other. They say, very well. And an invisible hand sets down a set of keys.
Which I wink, grab up.
Mechanically, how this will work is it's mostly just going to be like trophy gold. You will do hunt rolls. You will collect tokens. All that will be as it is. You will also occasionally, maybe even more than occasionally, find clues, which you can keep track of on the character sheet. The clues this is all going to be handled in a very similar way to Brindlewood Bay, which is to say there is no canonical solution to the mystery. I have no idea what happened to Theluvius. You're all going to figure that out. But basically, you will collect the clues, and by the time the session is over, you will come up with a theory about what happened, this magical mystery. It could be as simple as an experiment gone awry. It could be he literally disappeared somewhere. It could be someone made him disappear. It could be more nefarious, certainly. But in any case, you'll come up with a theory, and for every clue that you work into your theory or otherwise explain away, you will get a light die. And so you can collect however many light dice you collect based off the clues that you incorporate into your theory. And then you can add to that roll a number of dark dice up to the amount of light dice. So if you get 4 light dice, you can add up to 4 dark dice to the roll. The problem is after you roll, for every dark die that matches a light die, you all take a ruin. So that is the danger of adding dark dice to the roll. But if you just get a bunch of light dice, you may not have to add that many dark dice to the roll. The results we're looking for are 10, 11, or 12. A 10 means your theory is correct, but there is an immediate danger connected to it that you must deal with. An 11 means your theory is correct, but there is a complication connected to that theory. A 12 means your theory is correct and there is no complication or danger. It is a clean solution. And so mathematically, I don't know how many clues that is. If it's just a couple, you're probably not going to have a great chance of, of solving it. But you get a good little handful and you're probably okay. So, but you just get 1 roll and your theory is either correct or incorrect. If you roll below 10, your theory is not only incorrect, but there's also a problem you have to deal with at that time. So with all that said, I'll give you the run of the place. You know the characters. There are also these invisible servants, but they can't be communicated with directly. Maybe in some magical way they could be communicated with, but they don't speak or have an appearance. You have the characters. The locations are the portrait hall and the dining room and the salon, which you are familiar with already. Each of the members of the household has quarters, which make up the second and third floor of the house. And then the topmost floor is the most important room in the house. It is a sort of it's like an upper floor that's like has like a sort of glass ceiling, a glass atrium kind of effect over it. It is called the Pool of Colors. So, with all of that said, dinner concludes. It's lovely. They all will just be wandering about the house, maybe chatting, doing whatever they're going to do tonight, while you all sort of poke around. They feel reasonably confident that you can't really destroy anything. And if the need arises, they're happy to explain things, magical things especially, if it needs to be explained. Or if they have theories, they're happy to share them with you. And you're welcome to question them as you wish. So with all that said, I think I'd like to go around the table and just find out at the conclusion of dinner what, and the serving of a quite extraordinary sorbet, a color-changing sorbet, but not the flavor, just the color, disappointingly. What do each of you want to do? You can separate, you can go together, it's up to you, but I'll start with Horrorgust.
Well, Horrorgust.
Oh, there's also, I didn't mention, there's also the back of the house, kitchen, pantries, and like a basement storage. So.
Horrorgust pulls one of the silver forks and says, "It's time to tune this to the rhythms of the house. Anything with this much stone in will tell me a story." And I start tapping it on the walls. And I think what it's going to do is slowly lead me towards the servants area and the cellar. And I'll be like, tell me what you know, my little friend. And just start tapping on bits of stone and the floor as I go along.
Indeed. I think Van and Zan will look at each other and kind of say, "Geomancy is certainly a peculiar art, don't you think?" Yes, I do. What about you? We'll come back to that. What about you, Revel?
After he kind of, in the subtlest way possible, just kind of like about Horgus banging on the wall with a fork. I think he's going to start making his way over to the initiates if they're together.
Yes, our residents, they're not together. You actually get the impression they don't like each other at all. Actually, they don't talk to each other. They're younger. They're always casting like kind of shady glances at each other. But they are Jackson and Sylvia. They're freely available. Which one are you interested in talking to specifically?
I think I'll start with Sylvia.
Okay. And let's cut over to Orlin first, get everybody on the board. What are you doing, Orlin?
I am taking my handy ring of keys and I am walking upstairs and I am letting myself into the missing Grandmaster's room to poke around.
Theluvius Arcpenney, indeed.
Yes.
Great. So let's cut back over to Horrorgust then. I love your method of searching here, Horrorgust. This is great. Go ahead and do a hunt roll with your... What is your skill? You really need to get an attunement skill.
I have construction.
Good. I like that. Yeah, good. Yeah.
I'm thinking I might cash in at some point to add something to get these. There's like that ritual that you can use to smell around. So maybe
there's a skill called attunement in my Saturday game that one of the players uses it all the time. But yeah.
So I'm gonna sort of feel my way through the building using the fork as a kind of tuning rod. So
focusing on the back of the house to start, yeah.
Yes, that's right. I'm just cracking out the dice channel. Okay. Oh, I got a 6.
Nice. Take your token, which can be spent on treasure as normal. There are no secals here. If that wasn't clear enough already. doing something a little different today. Great. You head toward the back of the house, and as I've described already, you will notice that there are a number of invisible servants based off just the sheer amount of activity. The kitchen in particular, it's like Fantasia, right? There's like brooms and plates and things that seem to be floating around. The servants that are like dressed up like are just the ones that like wait at table. The rest are just totally invisible. But you see some of them going through as well. You eventually kind of they have a corporealness to them. Like you have to walk around them once you kind of realize they're there, right? And as you're sort of going about, you're kind of going through the pantry, which is a sort of large walk-in space. There is a sort of a mud room towards the rear of the house, the very, very far back. From there, there's a set of steps that go down into the basement, which is probably like the closest to the earth place of all the places in the house, right? And you are tapping along when you notice in the light of one of the candle cloches on the wall, this is in the basement, which is maybe not cleaned as rigorously as the rest of it. Written in the dust with a finger, perhaps, is a message that says, Van will pay for what he's done. That's a clue, which you can add to your clue sheet. Van will pay for what he's done. What do you do from there?
I think I start sniffing around the entrance to the basement, and I look down the stairs and say, in a house this magical, the basement must be magical indeed.
Indeed. We're going to come back over to Revel and Sylvia Rain. Sylvia Rain is wearing a very fine evening gown of sort of lavender velvet and lace. And she's quite young. I'd say probably 19, 20, really, really young. She says, you look kind of familiar. I feel like I've seen you before somewhere. She's kind of like flopped on a couch in the salon at this point.
I suppose I just have one of those faces.
How perfectly witty you are. Really, really horrible what happened to Grandmaster Theluvius, don't you think?
Is it? Because from what I understand, he's just missing.
Well, in a place like this, if you go missing, it has to be something dreadful. All that magic business.
That magic business. Are you not inclined to magic business of your own?
And I think this is kind of where Jackson Bell, the other resident, will sort of, he's sitting across the way, and he'll say something like, our dear Sylvia had her place bought for her. And she kind of casts him like daggers, right? She says, I have a certain magical aptitude. I belong here just like everyone else.
I've no doubt.
Jackson sort of like visibly rolls his eyes, right? He clearly thinks she doesn't deserve her place there.
Well, I won't insult your intelligence by pretending that my interest here is anything more than what it obviously is. What do you know of the Grandmaster who is missing as of late?
She says, "Well," and I think here I'd like a hunt roll to see the quality of information you can get. What skill might you be using?
I don't think anything come in handy here.
Just make a roll then. You can also use things in the environment as well to sort of stand in for equipment if you want.
That's a 3. I can't think of right now. He's just speaking kind of casually.
She says, well, I mean, Theluvius, that's what my family calls him. Theluvius is, well, he's a good enough man, friend of my father's. I've known him since I was a little girl.
Well, then this must be quite distressing for you.
Oh yes, yes, he was like an uncle to me. I'm perfectly heartbroken at the idea that something could have happened to him, something terrible could have befallen him. It's not like him just to disappear like that.
You've been here for how long?
Jackson says, 6 months. 6 months. Guess how far along she is in her studies in 6 months?
Farther along than I would be, I assure you. Polite giggles. Chuckles.
Indeed, indeed. Something terrible. Something terrible. As there's a waiter who's making his way around the space, serving cordials and things like that, after dinner refreshments in the salon for the few people who are there. And periodically, you get a glimpse of his face, and it's twisted up in terror. Like, he is doing his job in the way he's supposed to do his job, but periodically you just get a glimpse of his face, and it's this very like kind of like screwed up in terror kind of expression. That's actually a clue. You can note that however you wish in the clue list. Orlin.
Yes.
You're in Theluvius's quarters. And Grandmaster Twell is behind you. And you didn't notice him at first because he's quite short.
Sure.
And when you turn around to see him, he's in sort of like very beautiful ochre colored robes. And he says, I'm not sure what you think you're going to find in here. I mean, Grandmaster Theluvius was, he was how do we say, a simple man, very simple. It was a big surprise to everyone when he was named head of the chapter, I assure you.
If I were sure what I would find in here, I would not need to come in here to find it now, would I?
Oh, I do like the way your mind thinks. And he sort of like goes, and he's sort of like looking at Theluvius's things, like kind of disapprovingly.
Oh, he's
right?
kind of let it has he let himself in? Is that?
Oh yeah, he's there with you. Yeah.
Okay, all right, okay.
He's kind of like looking at everything, like everything is very gauche and disappointing, right? The room itself. I'll paint the scene question. We'll handle it that way. How could you tell that this room is, just by looking around or otherwise sensing what's in the room? What do you see that tells you that this is the living space of the head of this chapter, like of a member of the Swirling Court? What's the thing that stands out?
Oh, the head of the chapter. I mean, I think he's got He's got the charter for the chapter framed on his wall.
Mm.
Basically the thing that says you're the official, representative of the Swirling Court here in Amberay. He has like the charter is hung on his wall, prominently displayed.
Twell will walk over to that and he'll be like, I mean, imagine putting such a thing up so that you can see it every time you wake up every day to remind yourself that you are the head of the chapter. I mean, as if he needed more ways to lord it over us.
So forgive me for not being familiar with your protocols, sir, but if he is missing, but no corpus has been discovered, how do you handle such a situation? Presumably there's some sort of formal process required to declare him deceased, or that he needs to be missing for some amount of time. How exactly does that work?
Well, I have to be perfectly honest, I don't know. Deanna just sort of made herself in charge of everything. I think that we should go ahead and have a vote we should send it up to the other chapters to decide who should take over. But Deanna insists that we need to spend more time trying to figure out what happened to Theluvius. But of course, we'll do what she says. No one ever wants to do what I say. I tend to get overlooked, as you might imagine.
Certainly. You are the same amount of work would feel like twice as much to you, I say, making a gesture like this.
He rolls his eyes. Here I'll point out that even things that are not per se clues are context you can use for your theory, right?
Sure, yeah.
So what's your first approach here in the searching?
It is, my first approach for the searching is I'm just going to sort of start rifling through stuff and just sort of do a thing where I hold it up and look at it and watch his reaction. Because I'm expecting most of it he'll be yawning or whatever, but when I pick that thing up that makes him go, oh, and do one of those, then I'll know I found something.
I like it. Do a hunt roll. If you have an appropriate skill, do 2 dice. Or a piece of equipment. I'm also going to allow for these something you use in the environment as well.
I'm using him as a piece of equipment. I'm using him as
it.
my
Good.
divining rod for, because I don't know from this mystical stuff. So
I think that's great. Do 2 dice.
So there's a 5.
Good. Take your token. And let me tell you what you find. You'll notice that there was a portrait, a painting in the room of Theluvius. And when you walked in, the dominant color of the painting was a sort of rich green. But after a time, you'll notice that the dominant color in the painting has changed to be a sort of a rich, like a saffron yellow or an ochre, right? Like a kind of vibrant yellow. And this might not stick out as anything important, if not for the fact that Twell notices it too. And his eyes widen a bit. And then when he realizes that you realize he's kind of thrown off by this, he sort of shrugs it off, But there's definitely something there. There's something important about that. That's your clue. The painting changing to this from green to yellow. And now the horrible thing. Someone is rushing up the stairs. And it's Zan Morgus and Van Morgus. They're both there. They run up the steps in unison, so it only sounded like one person until you realize it's actually two sets of footsteps. And they say in unison, Grandmaster Twell, someone's in the cube. They're in the cube. And Twell says, really? Well, it's been years and years. What happened? And we don't know. They just appeared quite suddenly. And there's a commotion, and they're in the house, and they're going down to go see about the cube, presumably the one that's in the salon. Cutting back, what do you do just before I leave you, Orlin?
I let them go. Like they all rush out, and I say, and then I close the door and I lock it so that I can search this place more thoroughly undisturbed.
Right, indeed. Well, let's go back over to Horagast. Horagast, what are you up to?
I felt the call of the cellar, the smell of the earth rising from this contrived house. There's too much artifice, but the ground never lies. So I found my way down into the cellar, where I'm now sniffing around in my usual, not mechanically effective way.
Indeed. I want to just point out on the sheet here that the only things that can be actual clues are the things I call out specifically. So I will highlight those for you. That is
like
basically the bottom three. Yeah,
probably have a separate thing for like
notes,
people and notes. Details about those people, and then clues. But yeah, that works.
Yeah, these three are the per se clues that we're operating with here. Sorry, say that again, Horgus. What are you doing?
I'm looking around the basement to see, in a house as grand as this, with so many people cohabiting, surely they must hide all their dirty little secrets in the basement, which is where I coincidentally am right at home.
Indeed. Take a hunt roll, see what you see.
I have, as we've established, I have no ability to gain a second dice, so that's going to be a 1 dice hunt roll, which always goes amazingly. Yes, it was amazing. 2.
We'll come back to that. Revel, what do you do? You're still chatting with, I think in the room. Well, actually, now there's a big commotion because you're in the salon, and the whole scene was interrupted by the appearance of a young man no one seems to recognize, who is covered, his face is rubbed with soot, his clothes are sooty, and he seems not particularly shocked to be in the cube, but surprised that he's surrounded by all of you. He kind of like says, hello, who are all of you? Hello. And everyone, basically the whole household has gathered here at this point, except for your companions. And they're all just like sort of hubbubbing to each other, right? Like, what do we do? I don't know. What do we say? Should we say something? I don't know. If only Theluvius was here, right? What do you do, Rebel?
Would Revel's knowledge of rituals and witchcraft lead him to any kind of knowledge about this cube?
You could do a hunt roll. It might be a fairly veiled kind of information you get, but sure, go ahead. How do you do it? How do you search?
He doesn't touch it, but he walks around kind of viewing it from all angles and trying to just feel any kind of ritual energies coming off of it if anything like that twinges any of his memories.
Yeah, you could take 2 hunt dice. Go for it. The goal being, how does this thing work, I guess? Or what's
That was
happening?
a 6.
Nice, take your token. The cube is a strange construct in a few ways. One, it is totally seamless. It's about the size of like a small bedroom. It's completely seamless. It's unclear how the pieces of glass that make it up were joined. It's illuminated somehow as well. It's perfectly, brilliantly illuminated on the inside. So you have a perfectly good view of this young, soot-covered young man in the middle of it. And you don't know where the light's coming from. It's unclear. It's just lit. And the main thing you will pick up on is that the cube has reached into somehow another space and pulled this young man into it. How do you know that as you're sort of eyeing it, evaluating it, sensing it?
I think I can feel the magical energies of another place. It's a foreign energy that just drifted off of it when he appeared.
Interesting. So I think Jacksonth, the young resident, will say, Mr. Revel, what you seem to have discerned something here. What's going on?
In truth, it's just a guess. I believe this boy was pulled here from somewhere else.
The boy will say, yes, I was. I'm a chimney sweep in the house of Mr. Iotho Bruno, and I don't belong here. I don't belong there either, to be perfectly frank. This is not unusual for me.
Would Revel recognize the name Iotho Bruno?
Yeah.
You get the sense from anyone around that they do, that is a significant.
Yeah, they're not giving up what they know, though. There's definitely a recognition, though. They're very, very caught up in this. They are like kind of forgotten about Theluvius at this point. They're really, really intrigued by the cube. And I think Van and Zan will even look up at you and say, weren't you supposed to be helping us with figuring out what happened to the Grandmaster?
If this boy could be pulled here, perhaps the Grandmaster could have been pulled away through similar means.
Perhaps. And they go back to their little close circle of like quiet discussion about what to do. Let's take a 5-minute break. Okay, we're back. I owe you something terrible, Horgus, and we're going to get to it. But first, Orlin. So Orlin, you're continuing to search Theluvius's room, correct?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right, so what's your next approach here?
I think that it is to, it's to really, no kidding, ransack the place.
Okay. Just like turning the place over completely.
Open the drawers, pull the drawers all the way out of the chests, dump them over,
toss the bedding, like all that stuff.
Dump it onto the bed, toss it all, feel around and back for whatever he may have hidden, stuff like that. Pull that charter off the wall, look at the back of it, see if it's thicker than it's supposed to be, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Perfect. Good clue finding actions. Make your hunt roll.
Cool. All right. Is this just do I get a second die for that, or?
If you had like a skill or piece of equipment that would be helpful, I'd say yes, maybe. But
let me take a look at my. I think
just tossing the room. I don't think
there might be equipment here. Yeah, this is the crowbar here. I'm gonna bust some
Okay.
stuff open.
You're like
You know,
popping,
like
locked
they told
drawers
us
and
we
stuff.
yeah, so yeah. They told us like if I don't have a key to a drawer, I'm just gonna crank it open. Whatever coffers and stuff he's got, little delicate things I may need to
I
just
love
kind
it.
of like bust the bottom open and stuff.
And this is particularly easy to get away with right now because they're so focused on the cube.
Oh yeah,
and the
yeah.
salon,
Everybody's
right?
downstairs. I'm in this locked room. I can, mess it up
Yeah.
however I want, and then do my best to kind of make it look decent enough for us
Right,
to
yeah.
get out of here afterwards. So
Yeah.
yeah.
12 will probably take a certain amount of satisfaction in you having wrecked the room anyway. So,
Indeed. So
Yeah.
so there's that too. So all right.
so go for it. 2 dice.
Double fives.
Nice. Take your token. Let me take a look at my list. I do have a clue list a la Brindlewood Bay. Very good. The thing you find that's most interesting, perhaps, among his clothes and personal effects, you find a pair of slippers. You find several pairs of slippers, soft slippers, fur-lined, silk, that kind of thing, right? One pair, a sort of green, emerald-colored silk slippers, they have very pronounced burn marks on the soles of the slippers. And yeah, you also have to encounter something terrible. I'll think on that for a minute and come back. Horror guest. You are poking around the basement. Did you bring a candle or something with you?
Oh, I've always got my geode.
Oh, good, yeah. And
Only one this time. There wasn't enough room in the pockets for more than one.
Indeed. You're looking around and there's a lot of just, seems like to be mostly storage, like old rolled up dusty rugs, crates piled up in a corner, maybe some barrels of great big barrels of preserved foods, anchovies and pickles and things like that, right? Behind a great big sort of stack of barrels and crates, or crates and barrels, one of my favorite stores, by the way. If you look behind them, you will see 6 canvases in a circle. All of them, except for one, so 5 of them have been painted perfectly black. Just painted over with black. And the black is a very, very deep black. It's so black, it almost absorbs the light of your geode, right? It's just perfectly pitch black. The 6th one is blank. This is not a clue per se. It's good context for the mystery, though. It's a lowercase c clue, we'll say. What do you do?
I start to sort of, I'm going to investigate the paintings, try and lift them up and see if I can figure out what they're made of.
It all just seems to be they're just canvases. They're about the size of a they're the size of they're like a half portrait size, enough for a head and shoulders, right? But they're all painted just perfectly black, and they're set on easels in a circle. And then the 6th one is blank. It has not been. Maybe it was going to be painted at some point and it was never finished, or what? But
Horror guest now feels actually he can smell something more intriguing higher up in the house. So I think I'm going to smell the top floor, where the magical chamber is, just to sniff a hint of magic.
The pool of colors, yes.
I might lose interest and sort of head up the stairs up to higher up.
Yeah, you could definitely head up there. let's go to Orlin, or no, Revel. Revel, they are quite, they're very focused on the cube now. They kind of, Van and Zan have made it pretty clear they kind of want you to leave, right? Because they're having swirling court business now. So what do you do right now?
Well, he's certainly not going to leave once he picks up on that, and he'll turn to, I think, Deanna and say, if you get the poor boy out, we can ask him questions about his provenance.
Yes, I suppose we can. And she sort of like breaks away from the group and she says, young man, is there anything you can tell us now about your provenance? And here Deanna's gown has changed to be a sort of like rich golden yellow with emerald green details. And she says, and she addresses this to the boy, and the boy says, I'm Jimmy. I'm a chimney sweep. I work in the household of the great Iotho Bruno, and I have been for a number of days trapped inside a space very much like this, but not here. It was somewhere in the master's house. And then something happened. I don't quite know what, and now I find myself here. And Deanna says, she turns to the rest of the group and says, so it appears the rumors of there being more than one cube such as this are true. This is going to merit further study, I think. And then there's a little bit of pushback, like, well, Theluvius would know. This was his enthusiasm. Maybe we should focus on finding him, and so forth.
He'll pointedly look at Deanna and say, and you can release the boy, of course, right?
Deanna says, well, in truth, I only know one thing about how the cube operates.
And that is?
She places her palm on the glass, and the cube has this kind of wild, high-pitched keening, or like a buzzing. It does this like, and Jemmy starts to grow old very rapidly. His hair grows thin and gray. His skin becomes wrinkly. He seems to sort of shrivel up inside his soot-stained clothing. And before you know it, he lies down, quite ancient, turns to bone, and then turns to dust. And then the dust swirls and reforms into a small baby. And that baby grows to toddler size, and then to preteen size, and then to mature size. It looks like him again, still with the soot and the clothes. And he gets old again and dies again and turns to dust again. And it just keeps going over and over again. She's like, and Deanna says, remarkable, absolutely remarkable. We cut to Orlin. There's someone in the room with you, Orlin. Mm-hmm. You can hear them moving around. You can't see them, but you see evidence of their passing. Things getting bumped aside, footsteps on the floor. What do you do?
I just say kind of to the air, anyone who helped me find out what happened to him could reasonably be expected to share in our reward. I suppose that one of the servants, it's probably a lot that they would see that we don't see.
You feel,
including themselves.
You sense a sort of heavy breathing, a warm, hot breath getting closer and closer to you. You feel a pair of hands gently graze your shoulders, fingers traveling up around your neck, and the creature is choking you out.
Oh gosh, that's no good.
Combat.
All right. Okay.
Combat, their endurance is normally 6, but because they're invisible, 7.
I was not expecting that.
How are you vulnerable?
I'm vulnerable because I just was not expecting this thing to fight me. Like I thought it was one of the servants who was lurking around. It may be one of the servants, but like I thought it was just lurking. I didn't think it would be trying to kill. I'm just completely taken unawares here.
Indeed.
That's, I think, what's going.
Have a combat roll, hunt roll 1. You can't beat them the first time, but what's your big point, first of all?
Oh, yeah, let's find out. The problem with these trophy bots is if you click on anything else, your dice go away. So this is
/week.
Just /week. 5.
5, and now make your combat 1.
Got it.
Looking for 7. Obviously can't get it the first time, but
there's a 5.
Not great. You do take a ruin. It's just from him choking you out, or them choking you out. Horagust, if you'd like to hear the commotion as you go upstairs, you certainly can.
Can I? Oh no, we don't have our armor here, really. I guess, do we? So I can't really use that, can I?
I mean, what is your armor normally?
I mean, it's normally like my leather duster coat and my pilgrim hat.
I'm okay with you having one of those if you want. I think
Yeah, okay, yeah, whatever. Or like the stiff, maybe it's the stiff collar of my rented tuxedo or something like that. Yeah, okay, all right.
That's fine.
I'll chuck one off.
Okay, no ruin taken then. Horagust, if you would be interested in joining the combat, I'll let you overhear the scuffle in the room as you go up to the top floor. Otherwise, you can continue on your way.
Now, I'll run in and
it's locked.
I will. Oh no! Don't think.
It's locked. That's a problem. Round 2 of the combat. It will take you a minute to bust in, Horagust. I'm going to make Jim go, or I'm going to make Orlin go one more time without you because of the locked door. Combat 2.
All right. I mean, what do we do if we want to like do something instead of fight?
I've caught you up in the combat, so you really.
Oh, okay,
can't.
all right. So yeah, it's right now. It's just struggling for my life.
Yeah,
Got it. All right.
yeah.
Okay, cool. So combat 2. 5. Which is not going to cut it.
That is not going to cut it, but you do not take ruin.
Yes, yeah. And at this point, I think there's like thrashing around the room, knocking stuff off of dressers, smashing into furniture and everything. It's just it's a cacophony in here right now.
Horagust, how do you bust through the door finally? How do you get through finally?
Okay, so I think what happens is I just use my I don't have my staff with me, but I I have my sort of 2 jade fingers, so I like use my hand with the jade fingers to like smash, and I realized
Smash the
it's still got a bit of protective like residual magic in that kind of helps, and I eventually managed to punch a hole in and grab the lock and unlock it from the inside.
How are you vulnerable in the combat?
I think I'm vulnerable because I'm basically I have no idea what's going on. Like it looks basically like Orland's just like fighting with himself. You know, I actually have no idea what the hell's going on.
Let's have a combat. This time it'll be 4. What's your weak point first of all?
Oh yeah, I'll roll my weak point. 1.
Okay. All right. So Horgus, go ahead and roll combat 4 as well.
All right.
Looking for 7. Got it.
Nice.
You take a hit, Horgus, but I'm gonna let Orland have the narration in the beginning, so Orland can keep it going.
Yeah, like I said, he's got me, hand around my throat, and we are slamming around and everything. Horgus smashes in through the door, and I think like as he comes in, like Horgus, you just swinging punches or what? How are you?
I don't have my
coming in?
staff, so I think I'm just gonna have to like make do. But it turns out that my fist is a better hand-to-hand weapon than it, than you. And maybe if I start punching at the invisible thing, maybe some little flashes of green happen when it touches my fingers, and we get like really brief silhouettes of a bit of like an arm or a body or something.
And I think this is like super ugly. This is like Horgus punches him a couple of times, and I managed to like get around and like get him by the hair, and just like kind of like hold his head as I just like smash it into the Grandmaster's mirror 3 or 4 times.
Nice, good.
Just like this, just like an ugly brawl of a fight.
I think every time you smash its face into the mirror, when you pull back, you briefly see its reflection in the mirror, like what it actually looks
great.
like.
Yeah.
It's like a sort of gaunt, pale, featureless creature, like a doppelganger or a ghoul type creature, featureless and pale. And eventually you kill it. Yep. So you win. And you don't see it, but you hear it slumping to the ground, and it's no longer making any movements. It remains invisible, by the way. I will let you roll. I will let you roll gold dice if you want to roll 7 gold dice.
Yeah, sure.
In terms of my ruin, I'm going to mark it on my diadem. So I think at some point, maybe Horgus fighting reminds you all of Broken Huts and all the old people fighting, because he's not a natural hand-to-hand fighter.
Good.
But at some point, his diadem kind of lifts off his head, and it sort of crushes as if this creature like just crushed it with their
grabbed
hand.
it. Yeah, you see it fly off and it crush. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I love it. You did manage to get 1 gold. What did you get off this creature? I suppose that's the big question. Like, what is the valuable thing here?
I think it like when it was prowling around in the room after me, it picked up something from the room. Like the reason I missed some kind of like bauble or brooch or something like that belonged to. It's like an ornamental clasp that like would use to be like gather one of their capes together, right?
Perfect.
Their elaborate outfits.
And
I turned to Horgus.
A rainbow colored cloak clasp.
Yeah, sure. There we go.
1 gold.
That's fantastic.
And whoever wants to take that can.
That's mine. I'm the one that got choked out by this thing. I turn to Horgus and I say, get out your little pot of tar and see if we can't see what this thing really what its shape really is.
Oh, I've been waiting for this moment so long. I'm so glad you've asked me that, Orland. And I pull out.
Would you have brought your pot of tar to the party, though?
Oh yeah, always prepared. Always prepared. I only have a small pouch with me, but I have my marbles too, of course, and my unguent. Yeah, so I'm gonna paint it so that we can see a bit more giggling and cackling while I do it.
Yeah, and he like does he like brushes his tar along it, and I grab one of the big fluffy pillows and like just like rip it open and kind of over the thing so that it's like all tarred and feathered and we can see the exact shape of it. So
Yeah, I think that's great. Have a hunt roll, horror guess, with 2 dice.
Gotcha. Okay, I'll do that now. 3.
You encounter something terrible. I think it will be something terrible with this creature. I think as you cover it with the tar and you're feathering it so you can get a good like view of it, you do this, and as you do it, it begins to melt. It melts, and you can see it melting, and it just starts to, the shape starts to fall apart until it's just a puddle of goo is all that's remaining. And you only know it's a puddle of goo because of the tar. And this, whatever these creatures are, when they die, they just become, they melt into a nothingness. Let's go back to Revel. Revel, what are you doing right now?
I assume the commotion upstairs would have been audible.
No, maybe, no, I don't think so. Because there's quite a lot of clatter from the servants downstairs as well. They're probably would have covered it up. Horgust only heard because he was going upstairs.
Right. In that case, is Jemmy still doing his thing?
He's still, yeah, caught in this endless loop of being born and growing old and dying to dust and then being born again.
You knew it was going to do that, he said to Deanna again.
He says, that was the theory, yes.
Where did this come from? This was Grandmaster Theluvius's?
No, it's always been here for many, many years. We had a certain understanding about how it's supposed to work. And it's supposedly an artifact from Old Caldur. The Old Caldurians got up to some pretty unusual things, very, very powerful confluences of magic and science. But as long as anyone here has been around, the cube's always been empty. And now it's not.
Can you stop it?
12 says, I'm afraid the studies don't cover that. The theories don't go so far. We don't know anything about it, I'm afraid. About how to reverse it, to change it.
Would Theluvius have been so rash as to enter it, were he given the opportunity?
12 says, if he had figured out how to do such a thing, he certainly would have been lording it over us. He wouldn't have done so in secret.
With that, Revel would kind of take a step back and look for Van and Zan.
Zan is there, right there in the salon. Van and Jacinth are not there. Everyone else is.
He'll just approach the twin that's there and ask, your twin appears to be missing.
Oh, yes. He's probably upstairs doing a bit of private tutoring with Jacinth.
I follow. Is that a common occurrence?
Yes, yes, he is, well, between the two of us, he has the more artistic, libertine sensibilities. I'm the studious one.
And do your studies involve anything taught by Theluvius?
Well, of course, we spend quite a lot of time with the color pool. That is the foundation of our magic. Every chapter has one. Have you used the color pool? Do you know how it works?
I don't. Would you like to show me?
Certainly. Yes, follow me. And they go upstairs. And Horicus, I think you're on your way as well, right? If you don't stay there with Orlin, you can beat them to the color pool if you wish.
I think I could smell magic in the offing, so I think maybe after I finish towering the invisible creature, I sort of scamper off up the stairs again.
It's the highest floor, the fourth floor, the second and third floor being taken up by living quarters. And it's essentially like a kind of attic loft area, glass, entirely glass roof, the moonlight pouring in. And the main thing in the room is a pool. There's a sort of like stone lip that kind of raises up about a foot or two in a circle, quite a big circle, size of a large bed. And inside the pool, there is a swirl of colors like paints or pigments, but they don't mix. It's like just dozens and dozens of colors all swirling together, but not mixing. What do you do?
I think I'm going to examine the pool and see if I can figure out what kind of magic, because I could smell it even from the basement. It's
I don't think you'll learn
intriguing.
anything. You won't learn anything from observation here. This is a practical application of magic.
Can I dip my jade fingers into the pool and see what happens?
Of course. Take a hunt roll. You can take it with 2 dice.
Okay, all right. I got a 5.
Let's take the scene for a moment. As you move your hands in, you can figure out the basic sort of function of the pool. Essentially, you can kind of grab a color in the swirl and move it away from the rest, even make it bigger and dominant as you can manipulate it in a way. Which color are you drawn to?
Green, definitely green. Probably the jade has like earthed Horrorgus to the green.
As you manipulate the green, you can make it to where as you swirl it, it starts to dominate all the other colors. Even like if you keep going, it will be the only color in the pool. Oh, do we lose James? Oh, there we go.
Sorry, no, I'm here. It was just a little jitter.
You'll swirl your hand around and that jade color will become dominant. And if you keep going, it will eventually take over the entire pool. Do you do that?
Yes. And I sort of commune with that because I think it reminds me of the magic of the jade sigils from the prison of the hated pretender. So I'm going to try and attune myself to it and maybe draw more magic into my fingers.
As you are moving the color around, the green becomes a sort of, it kind of takes over the entire pool. And when you look up from the pool, you realize that all around you, the whole room around you has changed. You are in like a peaceful, like a little grotto or a meadow, like a grotto. There's a little waterfall. There are trees behind you. There are animals scampering about. But the pool is still there with its swirl of green. What do?
I think maybe I'll explore my environment a little bit more.
You stand up and an arrow whizzes past your head and sticks in a tree. Damn, nearly got him. Another arrow. What do?
Is there anything I can grab as a sort of memento before I think I might try and I might try and balance the colors out again so that I can get back to the other room.
Describe how you do that. What do you do?
I think what I'm going to do is start stirring it and pull out the other colors until the colors are in the same kind of prismatic arrangement that they were.
You shall make an effort. Yes. That's a risk roll. What could go wrong, Drew or Jem?
Fall into the pool?
I think you could just not do it properly. Next thing you know, you have arrows flying at you, maybe even sticking inside you.
So the point here is to get back.
Get back.
That's what he's trying to do.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
To basically get the colors mixed again. Or not mixed, but swirling. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think like one thing that could happen is like if he does it just as an arrow is about to hit him, you know, the arrow's going to end up back there and could break something or hit somebody else or something like that.
Oh, yeah, that would be interesting as well. Okay, well, so let's take a look at your dice. I'm not sure about the first die, but if you can make a case for equipment or skills, I'm here for it.
I think rituals, because this is obviously a kind of ritual.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
I think the kind of balance and arrangement of magical forces in general is something I have some knowledge of.
I like that a lot. Devil's Bargains. What do we think?
I mean, regardless of how this turns out, whoever's on the other side will be able to find their way to, wherever he ended up. It will there'll be a door. There'll be a door that somebody could follow him through at some later time.
I like that a lot. That's basically where I was going. Like one of these hunters gets pulled in with you, or is sort of pulled out with you.
The fluid, the colors will stick with you and may change how your magic operates the next time you do it.
I like that one. I like the idea that because I basically dipped my magical jade fingers in, that maybe I soak up some of the pool, like the green or the prismatic.
Indeed. Fabulous. I'm gonna make you do a dark die as well. So 2 light, 1 dark.
All right, let's give it a go. I got a 6, and on the light die.
Nice. Clean success. Describe it.
I think what happens is Horgest is desperately stirring the liquid, like dodging arrows and saying, "This is not what I expected." And then gradually the colors start to separate out and the world sort of swirls around him and gets less green. And then he ends up back in the attic. But as he pulls out his hand, the green thread disappears from the pool. And when he looks at his hand, he realizes that his curse has actually spread all the way to his elbow, and his hand is now kind of this kind of stiff, crusty jade all the way to his elbow, and it's kind of like cracked and scabrous, and every time he moves, it kind of makes this crunching noise, like grinding noise.
I like it. You can editorialize that however you wish on your conditions. Here we will have, this is when Zan and Revel will step into the chamber, and Zan will say, I see you found and have indeed used the color pool. I sense the strange susurrations in the room that indicate it has been used very recently.
Haragast raises his hand and it glows, and he looks at his geode and like throws it away and says, "This is better."
Rebel, what do you do?
Explain it to me. As if it were simple.
Yes. Well, basically, the way it works is each of these colors pertains or is connected to a different plane of existence. And what you do is he kind of grabs a color and begins swirling it around inside. And as he swirls it, it becomes more dominant. And he's chosen a sort of like beautiful gold, sort of glimmering metallic gold. He says, now the key is to not go too far. That's very dangerous. But if you let it go for a bit, you think on it, you clear your mind, you open yourself up to it, and his sort of like, he just gets this like smile on his face, and he's looking around. He says, you can see into these places, and what you see is often very, very exciting, very, very inspiring. You learn things. It's the foundation of our school of magic, in fact. If only I had the artistic talent of my brother, but I attune to it better than he does. And together we're really something, I'll tell you that. You don't see what he's seeing, but he's seeing something.
Revel will look at Horagast and say, what did you see?
I saw a green forest and it was very beautiful, but then someone tried to kill me. This happens to me every time I have an out-of-world experience. Somebody threatens me. And he starts looking around and he says, this room is very strange, but I can see why they're so drawn to it. It's the magical flavors, they're delicious.
Zan says, you most likely found your way to one of the hunting grounds. There are lots of them, we believe. They're all various shades of green. Great men of various worlds and places, and women too, strange goddesses. They live in those places, they stride across them, they spend eternity hunting the great beasts of the outer realms. I suppose they just thought you were a great beast of some sort.
Oh, I am. I am obviously a great beast of magic. They probably could smell my omnipotence.
Yes, it was surely your omnipotence they smelled.
I'm going to chime in real quickly. James, you have some kind of like squeaky business going on whenever you move. I don't know what that is, like if it's just your chair or something, but just something to be mindful of.
It's the chair, yeah.
Orlin, what are you up to right now?
I am going to.
You all have found, I will remind you, you have found so far 5 capital C clues, which you can use in your theory.
I'm going to cast about the room for, this is a wizard's room. I'm sure I can find a mortar and pestle here somewhere.
Sure.
Right? Something like that. And I am gonna grab one of my pieces of chalk, and I grind it up, and I pour it into my hand. I'm just gonna walk downstairs, and I'm gonna look for the first servant that I see moving through there with their, like, and I'm just like, whew, and I just blow it on them, because I want to know if all these things walking around are that same thing that attacked me.
Yeah, indeed. Well, the only servants you can see straight away are the liveried ones, right? Because they have something on.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll go up to right up to one of them and and blow that chalk dust all over them to like get an idea of the whatever the shape of their face and stuff like that.
Sure. Do a 2-die hunt roll.
Yeah, you bet. Let me so let me knock off one of my use of chalk. We've got one left now. Where is? Sorry, dude, half a sec here to get the die roller back here. I don't know. See. That is a 6.
Take your token. I think the only thing you're going to learn is that they do have, the chalk outlines do seem to be people. Whenever you do that, they'll get a little like, like, oh, excuse me, kind of like, they don't say anything, but like they sort of seem a little annoyed, and they immediately grab a cloth to wipe that off. Right?
But they're regular people. Okay.
Hard to tell. That it is the shape of a regular person. Sure,
but it's not the kind of like gaunt, weird, like doppelganger looking thing that attacked me. Okay, interesting. Let me ask you a question. I've got 3 hunt tokens. Could I just burn them to get a capital C clue?
Yeah, why not? I like that. I think that's very good. I hadn't thought about, like, because I made this up just today. I hadn't thought about like the economy of that, but I'm into it. If you want to spend, we'll say 2 for a clue.
Cool. Yeah, I'll spend 2 of my 3 then. Yeah. And maybe like I blow that thing, and the servant's like, what the hell? And I'm like, good, you're not one of them. And maybe that prompts a conversation with one of them. What do you mean? And then, then I can get into it like that. Yeah.
Here's your clue. One of these servants comes by with a plate full of cordials and chocolates and offers you a chocolate. And when you bite down into the chocolate, instead of like a rich raspberry or cream filling, it is a vivid ochre colored paint inside the chocolate. That's your clue.
So I don't know whether you can answer this or not, but I'm going to ask anyways. Like, is it served to me with like a wink or anything like that, or is it just like here you go, chocolate filled with paint, just like we served to everybody, like that kind of thing?
It's unusual. It
Okay.
shouldn't have happened. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, they seem like upset. Like I
think
okay,
we'll say Sylvia sees that and she's like, oh, what happened? Did you get a bad one? Was it off?
Just a little bit, yes.
She's like,
and I like hold up 2 fingers like with the paint on it.
She's like, is that paint like from the pool?
I don't know anything about a pool, but it's paint.
The pool, it's got these paints in them. We draw the paints out and we use them as a sort of focus for our magic. It's I don't know. I'm not very good at it.
Has Horrorguest seen this? It seems like the sort of thing that he would enjoy.
I don't know. Are you asking her in character or?
Yes, yeah. Oh, yeah.
She's like, which one's Horrorguest again? And
the one that's turning into gemstones, but not usefully.
Oh, the Geomancer. Yes. I have no idea. I haven't seen him ever since dinner.
Why do you stay here?
Well, I mean, I have to do something with my life, I suppose.
Why this? These people are pompous morons.
She's like,
Surely someone of your beauty and grace could find her place in society.
yeah, I suppose. But, well, I do have an aptitude for this sort of thing.
What aspect of it? Everyone else seems to think that you're hopeless at it.
And she kind of like takes a little bit of the yellow paint from your mouth or the side of your face, and from what's left of the chocolate, and she sort of like draws the paint in her hands and swirls it around until it takes the form of a beautiful ochre colored rose, and it's sitting there in her hand, and she says, I have some aptitude for it.
That is amazing. That is useful. There are noble women of Amberay who would pay through their delicate little noses for something like that.
Well, and not a small number of the men, too, I assure you. But, and then the paint just falls apart and dribbles through her fingers.
Yes, yeah, okay. All right.
And she says, aptitude. Jackson would say I don't have enough focus, that I can't do anything truly remarkable with my talent. Oh, and that I don't deserve to be here as well.
Why does he think you don't deserve to be here? That was quite remarkable.
Oh, he's just he's all bent out of shape, class issues and all that. He's mad because, well, Theluvius is my honorary uncle, and my father paid for my way to be here, bought my place, like so many others have been able to do in the past. And he managed to earn his way into the academy, into the Swirling court.
Then why shouldn't he be proud of his accomplishments? What reason does he have to denigrate you?
Because he's a ridiculous, bitter little man. And then she says, well, I do hope you figure out what happened to Uncle Theluvius soon. And she goes off to her rooms.
Okay.
Well, back in the color pool chamber, top of the house. What's going on?
I think Haragast is trying to get a sense. So the pool was obviously immediately distracting, but there must be other clues in this room that I could investigate.
Yeah, well, how are you doing it?
I think I'm going to. Oh, what could I do? Let me just think about my equipment. I think what I might do is basically. Yeah, I think I'm going to do my sniffing around thing again, just do a 1 dice one and see what happens.
Okay, go for it. Yeah.
There we go. Oh, I got a 6.
Nice. Take your token. Go take a look at my list to see if you find anything. You find in the corner of the room a perfectly preserved finger, just on the ground, well preserved, unclear if it was cut off or torn off or very carefully surgically removed. But in any case, it's a finger with a sort of long, kind of poorly kept fingernail on it.
Can I spend 3 tokens to add an additional clue, like a ring or something, some kind of additional thing?
So when we get ready to do the theorize, you can add in context like that as you wish.
Okay, will do.
Yeah, it'll be like Brindlewood Bay. You can add in whatever context you would like to make the clues fit your theory.
Can I spend 3 tokens to find a really valuable ring on the finger?
Sure.
Or just
for some treasure. Yeah, absolutely.
Just 2 tokens maybe I'll spend to find a ring, if that's okay.
You find a fine ruby ring on the finger worth 2 gold.
There we go.
Meanwhile, Revel, what are you up to?
I think Revel is going to maybe kneel down beside Van.
Zan's the one that came with you. Yeah. Van's making out with Jackson somewhere in the house. Somewhere.
And he'll say, were I to stick my finger in there, what would I see?
He pulls his hand out, lets out a sigh, a very satisfied sigh, because whatever he saw must have been very wondrous. He says, that's a curious thing about it. Sometimes the color presents itself to you, and sometimes the color, well, you're drawn to it in some way. I don't know. Put your hand in and see what happens.
He will.
So I guess the question is, are you drawn to a color, or is a color drawn to you?
I think he is drawn to the violet.
Interesting. You can swirl it around as you wish, and there's a sort of purplish violet color that you're moving around. Make a hunt roll. You can use 2 dice.
6.
Take your token. Zan will say to you, I have to warn you about that color. It's not frequently toyed with in this house.
Why is that?
It's connected to a very, very dark place, a very bad place. I don't think you're going to like what you see.
He'll kind of he'll just go ahead. He'll stick his hand in.
Zan says, no, clear your mind. It helps to close your eyes. And keep the color in your mind as you move your hand around. Don't think about it too much. Just breathe and feel the color. And whenever you're ready, open your eyes.
He'll take a few calming breaths and try and do as directed, and then open his eyes.
You open your eyes and you see a vast blackened field, a chaotic sky streaked with lightning and thunderclouds. Great herds of large cow-sized maggots are crawling across the land, and huge, horrifying winged monstrosities are stomping about across this plain of these huge maggots, lashing them with cat o' nine tails, fiery cat o' nine tails. It's a disturbing sight. But you're in no danger. You can tell you're just looking at this place. You're not in this place. What do you do?
he'll turn his head and try and see if there's anything that he can take back with him. Not literally, but anything useful, any information. Maybe
Nothing. Nothing. This is but a glimpse, one of 666 such glimpses.
He'll draw his hand back out and kind of shake it off, and kind of a nervous glimpse. He'll say, "Reminds me of home."
Does it really? Zan says. Well, I think I better get back to the others. Find my brother before he gets in too much trouble.
You don't suppose he made any trouble for Theluvius, would you?
No, I doubt it. He can be a bit aloof and a bit airheaded at times, but he's harmless. And he
Thank you.
goes back down the stairs. Leaves you both there.
And at that point, Revel will kind of collapse in on himself and wipe the sweat off his forehead and just kind of mutter.
Indeed. Orlin, what are you doing right now after you've eaten the paint-filled bonbon?
Yeah, that wasn't very good. I think I'm gonna try and find some of my companions here and see if I can't compare notes.
Sure, you can all meet up.
Having heard that there's this paint fountain, I'm gonna go find Horagast. He's probably somewhere around that thing.
You can go up to the top floor where the color pool is, certainly, and
Yeah.
they're both there.
Okay. My friends, what have we discovered?
Horagast holds up a finger and says, "I found a finger," and then holds up his hand and says, "My condition is much worse, but it was very intriguing."
Well, at least you have 11 fingers now.
That's very true. You've always been the funny one, Orlin.
And I walk up to Revel, thank you.
Sorry.
Drew, can you just put your name on screen? Trying to juggle all these names here. So I walk up to Revel, and I kind of just, lean in close, and I whisper in his ear, "How goes the audition?" We should leave before they get back into the master's chamber. I'm just saying.
Oh, sisters, what did you do?
I did nothing. It was whatever. Actually, perhaps you would know about such a thing. Does the Swirling Court employ ghoulish, invisible assassins?
I would say not that you're aware of.
I've never heard tell of such a thing.
Well,
and again, I hadn't heard of giant glass cubes that... Never mind.
So I was attacked by an invisible ghoulish assassin in the Grandmaster's quarters. I don't know whether, it hadn't occurred to me, perhaps it was some sort of magical watchdog that he employed or something like that to keep people from going through his things. It's hard to say, but I was definitely attacked.
Does that mean you found something useful?
I think so.
I have not had the same fortune.
Well, should we have had occasion? Have you had occasion to question these other members of the Swirling Court? I know that you don't want to offend anybody, but my friend, I'm afraid to tell you that it's one of them that is most likely responsible for what happened here.
Undoubtedly. No one seems interested in giving very much at all away, actually.
About themselves, no.
About each other, for sure.
They're not interested in divulging each other's secrets in a manner that
Oh.
might implicate each other.
Very much so. I've learned a little bit about the, let's say, the relationships in this place.
Have you asked them about the Grandmaster?
Yes. No
And?
one. All I've gotten is that the girl, Sylvia, had known him for quite a few years before coming here. He was as an uncle to her.
Well, an uncle in that she might inherit if something happened to him?
Well, that is interesting.
Let's take a 5-minute break. So you're all having this conversation, I imagine, in a hallway on one of the floors, right? Just to give you a sense of where everybody is in the house, Deanna, Grandmaster Deanna and Grandmaster Twell are down in the salon still with the cube. Jacksynth is also in the salon with the cube. Zan is looking around for Van, or no, Jackson's not in the salon. Zan's looking around for Van and Jacksynth, and Sylvia is in her room. That's kind of, she's retired to her room for the evening. So that's just a sort of sense of who's where. Let's just pick up from where we were kind of chatting in the hallway. You're up to 7 clues so far, which means potentially 7 light dice on the final mystery roll, which is a pretty good amount if you're just trying to get 12, right? Or 10 or higher. So if you want to start to move towards theorizing, you certainly can. But if you want to keep investigating, you can do that as well.
I think we should have a go at theorizing now, because we've kind of started that conversation already.
Yeah, so the way this works is if you do want to do that, what you have to do is you get a light die for every clue you work into your theory or explain away, like you kind of explain it away so that like it's accounted for in some way. You get a light die for each one, and then you can add any number of dark dice you wish equal to that number, up to that number. And so, but I'll remind you that the penalty for like, if the too many of the, you take ruin if the dark dice match the light dice, right? So, but we're just looking for the 2 highest dice, period, whatever that happens to be, 10, 11, or 12 is what we're aiming for. And you can add any context that you wish. So for example, you might want to add the context that the finger, underneath the nail, there was paint of a certain color or something, right? Or, the burn, you might want to note that the burn marks were made fairly recently or something like that. You can add whatever context would fit your theory. But yeah, so if you want to do that, have your discussion.
I have a clue I'd like to just open us up with, which is that I think the finger is very cleanly severed, like perfectly cleanly severed. And I think it looks to me like somebody either fell in or tried to come out of the pool, and then something changed and they were cut off into another world. And we've seen how it moves between worlds, and their finger stayed in this world, but the rest of the world, and the rest of them went somewhere else, but I don't know what anything else.
And I think Revel would point out that with a ragged nail, that clearly doesn't belong to Theluvius. So perhaps it was someone coming in.
Did we want to perhaps spend, like we've each got enough tokens that if we combine them, we could get 1 more clue, right?
Yeah, I'm saying 2 for a clue. So.
Oh, 2 for a clue. We could get two more clues just by spending our tokens.
All right, that sounds good to me.
So I will spend a token of mine, my last token, and combine that with horror guests.
I also have a token, yeah.
So Horgest and I will put our heads together for an additional clue.
Okay.
And I'll toss my 2 in.
2 more clues. Sweet.
As you're kind of roaming around the halls, looking for more evidence or just trying to figure out what's going on, maybe just keeping an eye on it for the rest of the household, seeing what people are doing, you will notice an ochre-colored handprint. An ochre-colored handprint that is on the door that leads into Jackson's room. Second clue. You'll notice, Revel, you've been noticing it maybe all night, but now it's like more obvious because you keep seeing it. But the candles, so basically the whole house is lit with these like these little glass cloches on the fixed to the walls, right? And there's candles in them. You keep noticing that one of the candle flames is burning an emerald green instead of a regular fire color. And it occasionally jumps to the next candle sconce. And you've been seeing it all night, this like green flame that is kind of jumping between the candle sconces. Those are your 2 clues. Now, your solution just needs to be, it's a solution to a magical mystery. You can make an accusation if you think it implicates a member of the household, that's perfectly fine. It could just be a simple explanation of what you think happened, magically speaking. I don't think there's a mundane explanation here. I think it probably is definitely a magical explanation of some sort. But yeah, like I said, you can add any context you wish. You can, that fits your theory.
So just as a player, just I want to make, because whenever you have twins, it just like it's tough to keep track. Which of the twins was giving Jackson like private tutoring?
That's Van. Van was
Van
yes.
Who'll pay for what he's done is the one that was giving her private tutoring. Okay.
Jackson's a man, but yeah, that's their.
Sorry, Jackson.
Yeah.
Sorry. You know what? Sorry, I got him mixed up with Sylvia. But yes, okay. Private, maybe having an affair with Van, who has artistic sensibilities. Excellent. All right. So let me ask you, Horgest, these paints in that well, they're paints, yes?
Oh, they're paints that represent fundamental dimensional forces of magic.
Yes, but you can paint with them.
Yes, they're viscous. You can daub them on things.
Well, I wonder if perhaps they have been dipping into the well to try and conduct experiments to do their own nefarious purposes. One imagines that the paints are supposed to stay there and not leave the well, but
maybe that explains the burnt slippers, because somebody's been creating magical discharges that have been burning their slippers.
well, there was that assassin. Supposing that if Van and Bell are having secret assignations, it is entirely possible that if he and Zan are in fact identical, that Zan might harbor the same feelings. And I know if I were a twin, someone that I desired my twin and not me, I would be confused, as we are ostensibly identical. But perhaps
jealousy between Van and Zan.
Yes, perhaps that is.
I think that's the emotion that started all of this, but what happened and how did it end up with the Archmage? Grandmaster, sorry, not Archmage.
Jealousy is certainly a theme. I mean, Grandmaster 12 is also quite jealous of Theluvius. He makes that very clear all night. He's made that very clear. He thinks that he should have been named head of the chapter. So he has motive, right? For sure.
These pigments seem to respond in some ways, perhaps to. Perhaps they used them to paint the Grandmaster out of existence. Think of it. His portrait, green, jealousy. And then perhaps Twill did not have the stomach to fully carry out his act and live with the implications of what that might happen. Thus the yellow of cowardice.
And I found a painting in the basement that had turned black, like his heart.
Indeed. Or perhaps they were. Perhaps that was where he practiced, and covered them to hide the results of his illicit experimentation.
Or perhaps not painted out of existence, just away from this current one.
Perhaps. Indeed.
Maybe the glass box was it was the experiment, and others knew more about how the box worked than they let on, and they replicated some of the effects of the box using the pool of colors.
And he would not want it known that he had been absconding with paints from the well. So he dragooned the servants into doing his dirty work for them, stealing it, placing it inside the chocolates so that they could be delivered to his room so that he would have the pigments.
You were talking about 12, to be clear?
Yes, yeah.
As a plate of sweetmeats with a palette of paint. Yes.
This is intriguing. So you're saying that 12 was stealing paint from the pool.
Mm-hmm.
The servants used chocolates to spirit the paint away to him, right?
Mm-hmm.
That accounts for a clue. I'm going to highlight that for now. And
the color of the Grandmaster, that portrait is the Grandmaster trying to tell us what happened, because it starts with green and 12's jealousy and turns to yellow, his cowardice at not being able to actually carry out this coup in the open.
Well, and this color is repeated, right? Because the paint inside the chocolate was ochre. The handprint is ochre, but it's on Van's door. There's got to be a connection with Van then, right? I mean, what's the Van connection?
Oh, he promised, I'm sure he promised Van advancement. That Van would become the second, his second in command.
Because Van is,
I have an idea, because Van is an artistic individual. Perhaps Van has a mastery of the ochre dimension within the pool. And it turns out that, in fact, the ochre dimension is somehow...
12 didn't have the talent to do it.
But somehow it's a good place to hide someone. And that's why the finger was cut off, because the Grandmaster was sent to the ochre dimension, and all that remained was his finger.
That's pretty good. So Van will pay for what he's done then. That's someone trying to tell us that Van helped, right? Okay, we like that. And what about the, that accounts for the finger as well. So let's highlight the finger.
And the waiters are terrified because they were coerced into this, but they can very easily be thrown under the bus, and they don't want it to, they're afraid that they're going to get blamed for this.
Yeah, I think that's fabulous. So that explains the horror of the waiter's face.
But maybe it was Jackson that left the message, because the ochre handprint, maybe after the deed was done, Van stumbled covered in ochre into Jackson's room and
Yes.
confessed. Yeah,
That's pretty good. So the handprint was maybe like in a slightly not like a super obvious place then. Is that fair to say?
and perhaps it's very hard to remove. So even though the house is sort of preternaturally clean, it's very hard to wipe away the stains of what was done.
So the handprint indicates that Van was in fact involved, and he sort of like in a stupor stumbled to Jackson's room, or to his own room, right? Because this is in front. It was Jackson's room, right? Yeah.
And confessed.
Very good. Well, whether he confessed or not is probably
or
irrelevant.
Maybe became just in that very Marple-esque way was distraught and didn't say what the matter was or something.
Indeed. So that means we have 3 clues to account for if you wish to account for all of them. I'm going to let you have the paintings as a clue, as a capital C clue. It actually, one of my written down clues was a palette that was just in black, or it was a palette of only black. I'm interpreting that clue that way, so you can have that one as well. But we have to count for the burn marks on the soles. That circle of paintings, 5 of them black, 5 canvases black, 1 blank, and then the emerald flame jumping between the sconces.
The canvases were his practicing with the paints.
Why the black?
Because like he did his experimental canvas. That doesn't quite work. Let me paint it all black so that no one will know what I've been doing.
Got it. He's
it's to
hiding
cover up his
Alternatively, maybe the amber dimension actually leads to a place that is a void, and the black is what happens when you create that, when you open a passage to that dimension. So maybe
that's much weirder.
Like that doesn't make it. Although I guess it's not any weirder than the violet one, they going to a burnt landscape full of giant maggots. So I guess
like I feel like that's him covering his efforts to try and I feel like that's how he knew he couldn't do it. That he tried many times and kept failing and failing and failing, and that's why he enlisted.
I like
the
that
other student
better,
there. The green flame is the magus trying to warn us, and it jumps from candle to candle because it has to stay ahead of that enchantment that cleans the house. So that's why it leaps from candle to candle.
And the green, of course, we're associating the green with Theluvius because the original painting was green, right? Yeah.
And he's figured out a way of triggering an effect in another dimension.
Yeah.
That from where he's been consigned to. That
just leaves if you want to try to explain it away, you can either explain it away or incorporate it. The burn marks on the soles. What do you think, Revel? How would you explain away such a thing? Because it's unclear if it's connected necessarily.
Perhaps that is a result of Theluvius fighting back as he was being taken away.
Oh, got it.
His attempt to hang on.
I like that. It indicates some sort of battle or some sort of
magical struggle.
Yeah. Very good. I'm into that. So let's review. Van will pay for what he's done. That's someone basically cluing in that Van was involved in Twel's scheme. Revel caught sight of a waiter's face, found it contorted. This is just a general sort of impression that this is the waiter who saw something down in the basement, basically, right?
No, he's the one that was forced to deliver the paints.
Oh, forced to deliver the paints. Good.
Yeah, and so he's he doesn't want to get thrown under the bus for that. Yeah.
But also maybe these magical avatars are actually they take the imprint of human emotion. So maybe it kind of maybe that's why that other one went into a frenzy and tried to kill Orlin as well.
Yeah, that one's unusual because I think that maybe that was a different type of creature.
I think that's what we established is that that was not the same thing as the way.
And maybe it may be totally unconnected to the actual events of the disappearance for all we know.
Yeah, like, I mean, the assumption I had was that was like a watchdog. Like, I started really messing with the Grandmaster's crap, and I triggered whatever guardian it was that dealt with, burglars, basically, because that's essentially what I was. So.
The color of the painting of the Grandmaster turning from green to yellow, kind of just generally like is a clue about what happened to the Grandmaster. Like he's trapped in the ochre dimension. The fact that Twell reacted so strongly to this is the clue there, right? Like, oh shit, burn marks on the souls, probably because there was a fight to subdue the Grandmaster. The black paintings or the black canvases in the basement are basically Van practicing for the magic that would trap the Grandmaster. The paints were delivered to Twell and Van through these chocolates, which I think is a great detail. The finger is the only thing left of the Grandmaster. The ochre-colored handprint near Jackson's door indicates that it was probably either Jackson or Van, but since we think Van is the guilty party here, it was Van just on the night of the event, stumbling towards Jackson's room and leaving the handprint. And then the green flame jumping between the candle sconces is sort of a spiritual manifestation of the Grandmaster trying to basically say, I'm still here, and to stay ahead of you. This is a fabulous theory. I like it a lot. You have 9 dice for your theory. You're very strong chance you're going to get the 10, the 11, or the 12. If you want to add a dark die, you certainly can. You have the ability to do that. But otherwise, you can roll 9 light and see how it goes. What do you think, group?
Let's just roll our 9 light. We don't need to risk the ruin, I don't think. How do you guys feel about that?
I think we should add 1 black dice just for a bit of a free song.
Just because, yeah, sure. There we go. All right.
So I think this will work on the die roller. Is risk /risk 9-1 should work.
Sorry, hang on a sec. Explain again. Like, this is not like we roll a. So we take as many ruin as there are matches. Is that how that works?
Yes. So basically, if you add
take
one,
that much ruin.
You all take that much ruin. So if it's just 1 die, the most you can all gain is 1 ruin.
Okay. I misunderstood that. So I thought it was like a weak point where, like, if we rolled a black 4 and then we got 4 whites, no. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
got it.
Just
okay.
1 for 1 each. If the dark die matches any of the light dice, you all get a ruin. So.
Sure.
And so if we get 10 or more, then we've solved it, but there's a problem.
10 means there's an immediate danger you have to deal with. 11 means there's a complication that you may have to deal with, or is just a thing in the story. And then 12 is a clean solution.
So yeah, if we add a dark die, then we're guaranteed to, at worst, only get a 10.
Why is that?
Because we would be rolling 10 dice.
Oh no, you're just gonna take the 2 highest. So.
We could
It's like
still
a combat
roll.
roll. Yeah.
Right.
We could still roll extraordinarily badly.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
Who wants to do the honors then?
I got the last 6, so I feel like it shouldn't be me.
I'll roll it. That's fine.
Yeah, it should be you, Jim, because I rolled second last.
So what's the best way to do this is to
try risk 9-1.
Okay.
I think it works because someone in my group accidentally rolled like risk 20. So
boom.
You're all taking 12. A ruin. Yeah, you're all taking a ruin, but you did get a 12. The ruin is basically going to just come from, the incursion's over, so it doesn't really matter, but but I think it's basically just like the sort of the magical kind of like nature of this place getting its claws into you, right? Like, clean victory though.
I kind of like the idea that when we leave, suddenly we're breathing in sooty, smoky air again. All of a sudden, it's like, oh my God, oh, this is horrible. Our eyes start running and everything. And yeah, we got so used to it being nice that it was.
I think for me, the 1 ruin could just represent my now advanced Garalem's curse, my jade arm, which may or may not crumble off at some point. I don't know.
Indeed. So let's have the scene. We can do this in classic kind of Agatha Christie style if we want, where basically everyone is gathered in the dining room again for a late night coffee and biscotti. I'm gonna have something from the Nespresso as soon as we're done here, and so which I love, by the way. I was like, oh, if I get an espresso, I just won't go to Starbucks as often and I'll save money. Oh, fuck no. I've had like 3 or 4 days since I bought the thing. So
I got an espresso machine and it was awesome. I thought I wouldn't go to Starbucks as much, but now I'm just
now I just spend $30 every time I order these pods. Okay, so everyone's gathered. Deanna says, well, what an interesting night we've all had. Did you manage to figure out what happened to Grandmaster Theluvius?
And I think I will gesture to Revel, like this is basically his audition for the court here. So
oh, yes, Revel, you get to be the inspector here.
Put on his deerstalker cap. And
Indeed, yeah. So what do you say?
we have.
Oh, and then everyone gets a little like, Twell gets noticeably like a little nervous, right? And kind of looking at Van looking at Twell, you'll notice. But yeah, everyone's like kind of ready to hear what you have to say. What do you have to say?
Hargest picks up the finger and says, we're pointing the finger at you, Ren.
To who?
Who was it? Sorry, did I say?
Yeah, I don't know what you said. It's
12.
12 and Van,
12.
the two conspirators.
I merged them together. 12 and Van. I don't know who Ren is.
12 says, that is absolutely preposterous. What do you mean? I didn't have anything to do with the Grandmaster's disappearance.
Tell me, what are your opinions on the color ochre?
And Van stands up and says, oh, well, what a late night we've had. I'm feeling a little tuckered out. Maybe you can all catch me up in the morning. And he's getting ready to leave the scene. Revel
will come and just put a hand on his shoulder from behind and just, I believe you should continue to sit, Van.
Van sits down. Deanna says, what's going on here?
It appears that 2 of your court members conspired to rid you all of Theluvius.
And there's a like kind of a hubbub, right? Jackson looks at Van and says, is this true, Van? Did you really do this? And Van says, I don't know what you're talking about. This is absurd. 12 says, it's perfectly absurd. Why would I do such a thing? Why would any of us do such a thing? We all enjoy a spirit of camaraderie and a certain esprit de corps.
I'm sure. I will point out that none of us have accused anyone, and yet you were very quick to defend yourself.
Deanna will say, lay out your case. What happened then? And we can assume that you do, I think, at that point. And Deanna says, well, we're going to have to do something about this. 12, I'm afraid I'm going to have to report you to the High Council. This will not stand. 12 kind of like snarling in the corner. Van, do you feel confident that you can reverse your magic and bring Grandmaster Theluvius back? And Van says, oh, yes, I certainly can. Yes, very, very easily done. And 12 just sort of like hops down from his seat and stomps out angrily. And Van says, I'll get on it right away. And there's a whole kind of, little thing. And Sylvia says, oh, well, this is the most interesting thing here that's happened here in weeks. And yeah, Deanna says, "No, this is a matter of your payment." And she will ask each of you if you prefer a magical treasure or the money. The choice is yours. 3 gold or a magical treasure of my choice.
Cash.
I have a ring that was a gift from your archmage. I keep saying archmage, Grandmaster. I will take that, but I would like magical items.
Well, you could have kept the ring without saying anything, but yes, they'll give you a fine treasure. What about you, Rebel?
I should take the cash, but I would like the treasure.
Indeed. And because you acquitted yourself well in front of this, because this is connected to your drive, Revel, I will give you a bonus 2 gold to put in your hoard for purposes of meeting your drive. But you're taking the treasure, correct?
Yes, please.
Indeed. So the magical treasures are the following. We have to pull up a list. You are given, Revel, 3 small canvases. They're kind of pocket-sized. They can be carried easily. And she says, get yourself some paints. No need for the magical sorts we use here. And paint a picture. And whatever you paint, no matter how slapdash, that thing will materialize. It will appear.
Well, thank you, Grandmaster.
And she says, to you, you can have these spirits. And here she means like what you would use to mix with stones, with finely powdered pigments to create magical paints. They can be used 3 times. Magical paints, what they do, well, that's up to you. But you have them. Because these are limited use magical items, you don't need to increase your burdens to keep them. And you get a fat sack of coin, Orlin. And so concludes the Swirling Court. Let us take a quick 3-minute break. We'll come back, we'll do Hearthfire, and we'll call it a session. Hearthfire. We've done Hearthfire before. No need to meet burdens though, so that's good. That's happy. Let's just go around the table and we'll just go in turn. Who wants to do something from Hearthfire? Say what it is and we'll do it. Starting in the order of the sheet. Revel.
I will start. Well, I'll lower my rune by 1 for having a home.
Let's do that then. So you get to write down a memento you kept from the house and put it in your home. Or a memento you kept from the Swirling Court.
So I think he actually stole one of the one of Theluvius's feathers, like what he had previously aped with his own costume jewelry earring. Now he has a real one, and maybe he'll swap that out when he's feeling particularly fancy.
Fabulous, I love it. Let's go to Orlin. What do you take?
I will. I'll return to my little cottage by the cemetery to heal a ruin.
Indeed.
And
what'd you take for a memento?
What I take for a memento, I definitely took one of the little one of the paint-filled chocolates.
Nice.
I just get a kick out of that.
Very good. Horror guest, what would you like to do for Hearthfire to start?
I think what I would like to do is put after I've sold the ruby ring, I would, and the silver tuning fork that I also didn't give back. I'd like to put 3 gold into my hoard, and I'd like to narrate something for doing that. So
Sure, go for it.
I think the thing I will narrate is something to do with my physical appearance reflecting my obsession with my drive. And what it will be is that I'll use some of the magical thing to mix up a paint that's flesh tone colored that I'll paint onto my jade arm and give it the appearance of normalcy, so that it's still made of jade, but I can cosmetically hide the progression of my curse.
Nice, I like it. Very good. Yeah, it's great. Did you also go to your household to lower your ruin?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I spent some time in my workshop mixing up my paint, and it turns out actually that my green robes were in fact toxic, so it took me a while to recover from the rash that was caused by that.
Nice. Which memento do you keep?
I think I kept the figure. And interestingly, it doesn't seem to be decomposing as fast as I thought.
Indeed. Great. Going back to Revel.
If I do equipment, could I swap out my air bladder for paints?
Oh, like if you just don't want to have the air bladder, you just want to put something else there.
Right.
Is the air bladder that came from additional equipment at some point?
It did, yeah.
You could just put that in your found equipment and then spend a gold to open that slot.
Okay.
Yeah. You can just
So
put that
I will
down.
do that.
And then just have an open slot that you can get paints or whatever you want later on. So whenever you do get equipment though, you have to you've already done this once already, huh? Or have you not?
Not.
You have not. We need the shopkeeper's name and the shopkeeper's secret.
I think the shopkeeper's name will be Tylessa.
What do we think Tylessa's secret is that she might someday come to you about?
I think it's got to be something witchy to really get his attention. So I think maybe she has a curse. She has been cursed. Not quite turning into Jem's curse, but
I like it. So Tylessa is cursed in some way. Good. All right, swinging back up to Orlin. Orlin, what would you like to do for Hearthfire?
I am going to spend a gold in town to heal myself of 1 ruin.
Okay. You can also do one of the freebies too if you wish.
I've got the gold, so I'm going to spend it. I'm going to hold off on that for a time when I have no gold and need the healing. So yeah.
Totally fair. Horagust.
I am going to do what we were talking about, and I'm going to learn the skill attunement.
Indeed.
But I think basically in order to do that, I'm going to sacrifice a piece of armor to balance out my ruin. So I think my diadem is now hopelessly destroyed. So I'm going to not replace it and just keep my current armor.
Keep your burdens the same.
Yeah, keep my burdens the same, but I'm going to learn attunement. But that's the skill.
Okay, you can add that to your training. And if I remember correctly, that there's just drop downs and attunement should be on there.
Okay,
it is attunement, yeah.
Attunement, there we go.
And whenever you learn a skill, you have to do a couple of things in the beginning. The first thing you have to do is you have a mentor training you in this new skill. So your burden increases, but it's a wash because you reduced your armor. Name your mentor and describe an incident they are famous for.
I think my mentor's name is Onyx, and Onyx is a geomancer who is known for finding veins of, like, basically being a precious metal dowser, like of basically being hired by mining companies and, you know, to find veins of precious metals. So she's known as the best attunement expert in the geomancy world.
Nice. Narrate a short montage showing how you learn the skill after days, weeks, or months of training.
I think basically it's a scene of the sewers of Onyx sort of sniffing around and saying, "Smell that, Hargus? That's the smell of someone who's lost their treasure down the drains. We're gonna find it." And Hargus smelling it and says, "Yes, yes, I can smell the gold, but I'm never very good at actually finding it." She says, "Don't worry, Hargus, you'll be able to sniff it out in no time."
Very good. Why does your mentor or your new skill increase your burdens? Like, what's the cost here?
I think the cost is, unfortunately, that the more geomancy I practice, even though I've learned how to conceal it with this paint, the jade is creeping up my upper arm now. And I'm concerned that if it reaches my shoulder, my whole arm's basically just going to snap off.
So you have to tend to that a lot, basically. Yeah. Good.
It seems like my condition's accelerating, basically.
I love it. Thank you. Let's go back to Revel. Anything else you want to do for Hearthfire?
I'm going to drop my one remaining gold in my hoard. And I will do the
bonus 2 as well.
That's from that is from the bonus 2.
Okay.
I use the other one for the equipment. So
got it. Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to narrate a short scene in the present showing how I'm getting closer to achieving my drive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a fairly simple thing, because before he was saving up his money but didn't know what to do with it. But now that he knows that all else failing, he can buy his way into the court, now he is much more targeted with his financial savings.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, it's good. I like it. Fabulous. Orlin, anything else for Hearthfire?
Yeah, I'm going to spend a gold to open a backpack slot. And the way that works is I just erase something that I've currently got in my backpack.
You put it in found equipment, so you have it forever, okay. Basically.
Got it. Okay, cool. Okay. Transfer it to found equipment. There we go. Cool. Excellent. All right, cool.
And you'll have to come up with the name of your shopkeeper plus their secret that they might share with you someday.
Let me clear that. Okay, we cleared that slot. Oh, except it's gotta be one of the optional slots, right? The starting equipment, do we always have that, or
that's always there? Yeah, I mean,
that's always there.
You only ever have like 3 sort of like open slots. So
okay, cool, excellent. So I'll the chalk was almost used up, so I'm going to clear that out of there.
Yep.
Yeah, because when it's used up, it's like gone, right? It doesn't go into found equipment or anything like that. Okay, cool. So it's fungible. Or whatever you can use up. So I've done that. Shopkeep. Their name is Hurley, Hurley. Let me see here. Oh,
They're trapped on an island that will.
Nope. Hurley. And their secret is that they are an illegitimate child of the emperor.
Ooh, nice, good, like that. Yeah.
They're like a whatever, like a bastard of the emperor.
Fabulous, fantastic. Horror guest, anything else?
I don't 100%. I don't think I have anything to do the right now. No.
Revel, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
And Orlin, I'll give you a moment to finish your bookkeeping, but then I'll ask you anything else.
Yeah, so I've got I'm going to I got cost me a gold to unlock that slot, so that goes down to 2. I'm going to spend a gold to get a useful piece of information at the
carousing.
Dubious Astrolabe.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Love that. Good. What kind of information are you looking for? Also, we get to name in the bestiary. You get to name the doppelganger-like creature.
Oh, okay, sure.
I will just tell you that the creature is a doppelganger type creature. It was only invisible because it was mimicking the invisible servants, right?
Oh, interesting.
Right.
Okay.
So it doesn't always look like that, right?
All right.
So if you have a thought, a name more interesting than doppelganger, I'm open to it. It had a 7. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it had 7 just because it was invisible. It's normally 6.
Okay. So I'm gonna put a question mark there.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe a little star. I'll put a star, and under notes it will say, I'll say endurance.
So you could certainly carouse to learn more about that creature, or maybe what they were doing, or their weakness, or something like that.
Nah.
You could carouse to learn about future incursion opportunities.
I want to carouse to learn about that cursed spear that I found.
Ah, yes, very good. Biter. Is this called Biter?
That's a great idea.
Let me. I gotta pull up my PDF now. Hold on, give me a minute. Because I don't remember what it does. I know it's cursed. You only know it's cursed because you listen to the podcast.
Well, I would have wanted to know what's going on with my named spear anyway. So
yeah, that's fair.
Yes, yeah.
You know, it's magical of some sort for sure.
Got it. And I also want to make note. I don't know whether this is on purpose or not, Jason, but the first 2 options on carouse are identical on the sheets.
Oh,
they're both describe the high quality meal you usually order. You say how your friends have it all wrong.
I will fix that.
Oh yeah, that's Drew's fault. Okay, let's take a look at the spear biter. Gotta find it first.
There it sits in my found equipment slot.
Yep.
Held for appraisal, it says.
Indeed. Okay. Very good. So I think you're having a drink in the, what's it called? The Dubious Astrolabe?
The Dubious Astrolabe, yes.
Indeed.
Yep.
You're having a drink in the Dubious Astrolabe. And I think your drinking companion is a mysterious person wearing a black silk cloak and hood and a mask that's decorated like starlight. And they say, so, I heard that you have a magical artifact you would like for someone to investigate. You're looking for information like this, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Well, as it turns out, I have a particular expertise in the ancient and forgotten relics of the old world. Show me your piece.
And I whomp down on the table.
He says, Ah, yes, biter. I know of it. The stories are interesting. It's a weapon of old Kaldor, in fact, worth quite a lot to the right buyer. In fact, I might be interested in it. But I will tell you what it does. It is a very powerful spear in that it strikes very true. When pointed at an enemy, it always finds its mark. I say always because sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the spear turns on you and strikes you instead. This is the nature of the curse. It was originally a trap set for an ancient warlord, a sort of long-term assassination plot. Out of character, mechanically, Biter basically gives you an extra die whenever you are doing combat with Biter. But Biter also gives you an extra weak point.
Yeah.
So it's a cursed spear. So
yeah. So I say to him, so you're interested in it?
He says, yes, I could certainly, yes, I'd be willing to purchase it from you.
Yeah, 5 coin, it's yours right now.
Or the equivalent of 5 gold, right?
Yes,
which would be a fat sack of coin.
Or whatever.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. He
yes,
says,
yeah. He says, I will trade you for its weight in coin.
He says, but it is cursed, so I mean, what about? And then he says,
it is cursed, but you know about the curse. The thing about cursed weapons, cursed items, is that they are only, once you know about the curse, they become significantly less dangerous, and in fact, might be the sort of thing that one might want to give to a hated foe.
3/5 its weight in coin.
I would, except that you see my friends are over there, and they will think less of me if I accept anything less than 4/5.
Very well. And he kind of signals his man who is standing in the corner to bring a little casket of coin. He says, I don't know if we're getting the scales out, but this should sufficiently cover it.
Yeah, and whatever. I kind of hold it up. I sort of hold the spear, hold it up. It'll do. All yours, my friend. Chink, chink, chink.
I will let you hold on to this until the next Hearthfire. You don't have to deposit it in your hoard.
Okay, cool.
So, very good. That concludes our session. If you're all interested in it, I'd like to pick up with this group again in April. I have the other group in March, but if you're all open to that, I'll hit you up about that. Let's do a quick Stars and Wishes, though. Jim, what say?
Since I caroused for information, do I get to do the meal thing? Or
Oh yes, you do. I forgot all about that. What is the next thing on it?
Describe the high
just the high quality meal.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think?
The high quality meal that I usually order at my favorite tavern is
at the Dubious Astrolabe. Yes.
At the Dubious Astrolabe, yes, it is. It is garlic squid. It is squid that is like baked, like it's like little squids, right? And they sort of roll them up and bake them in a garlic clove, and then you just kind of like you eat it like that. So, and it's amazing.
Revel and Horicus, you get to say why Orlin is completely off base about this, and in fact, how that's totally disgusting, and in fact, how the food in general at the Dubious Astrolabe is not great. What do you think?
I think Horicus knows, in fact, that the premium squid from the blossoming sea should actually be so expensive that Orlin could not afford it, and that in fact, having spent a lot of time in the sewers, he thinks that this is one of the small cephalopods that infest the sewers, that filter off sewer water, and were in fact released by some nefarious crime lot boss or something many years ago, and now they've run rampant and they're actually like sewage, and they probably just fished them out of the culvert behind the dubious astrolabe.
That's why they have to do the garlic, so you don't taste the like underlying flavor as much.
Oh, the garlic brings out the underlying flavors you don't understand.
Rebel, how was the food?
Oh.
Substandard at best at the astrolabe.
That is way better than what I was thinking. But I guess the thing that you would take for like parsley as a garnish on it, it is just like ditchweed that they've pulled from behind the restaurant and just kind of shredded and decorated to make it look a little better.
Indeed. Well, that's it. You are one step closer to possibly buying the spherical or the dubious astrolabe.
I'm so on board for that. Like that's my trajectory for this.
I love it because I
added
added it in because it's such a like classic D&D campaign thing to do,
yeah,
right? To buy it in, right?
Yeah,
so good. Okay, well now let's do stars and wishes. So stars and wishes, if there's nothing else. Stars are things you enjoyed about the series or session, and wishes are things you hope to see for next time we meet these characters in April. Whoever wants to go first, go for it.
Oh, stars for the star to Drew for like all the like, ixnay on the, like don't screw this, don't you guys screw this up for me. And that was fun, and it was fun to play off of that and to be, to in fact try to screw it up for him, which was pretty great. So I really enjoyed that. Did you want us to do wishes just in conjunction, or?
It doesn't matter, whatever. If you have some, go for it. If not,
yeah, I'm looking forward to a horror guest slow descent into, fully crystalline form. Watching that has been that's a lot of fun. Looking forward to more of that. So yeah.
My star, I'm really happy with how the mystery turned out. I didn't know if so. I was a little trepidatious because I thought that I know my system works, but I had never really done anything like this either for Brindlewood Bay or the Between, where the clues are so abstract and magical and the question is so open-ended, And so I was happy that you all managed to come up with a legit theory. I mean, like it actually fit really nicely. And so I was really happy with that. And just as a general matter, I just think the characters are always fun. It's been very enjoyable to watch these characters kind of move through their world and do their thing. For wishes, I think I'm curious to, we've spent a fair amount of time with the Swirling Court now. I think I definitely want to kind of start digging into Garlem's curse a bit more as far as like the drives go. So,
yeah. My star also for the mystery and just the fun of putting all the clues together into a pretty coherent theory, and that was a lot of fun. As I mentioned off in between breaks, I have yet to actually play Brindlewood Bay, so it was fun to see kind of the Brindlewood Bay experience in a different kind of setting. So also obvious stars for the little MCU style linkages between what was going on here and from Lies of the Sisters.
That a little note, because I don't know how much Jim or James or the viewers know this, but the last session with the Saturday group was another court crawl. They were at the masquerade ball that you heard about on the way in, and things that were happening in that session affected this session, which I thought was great fun. Kind of an inside thing, but it was enjoyable to throw out there, and people who watch all my videos enjoy that. So, and Drew's in both games, so so Drew got to enjoy it as well.
I'm glad we've seen proof of the shared Cordova trophyverse.
Yes, indeed.
So
Yeah, it's
that's exciting.
The whole trophyverse. Yeah, indeed. Any wishes?
Wishes, I am really looking forward to, now that Horgust can properly attune to things, I'm looking forward to seeing how that gets used and what comes of it. It'll be fun.
Indeed.
But I won't encounter so many horrible things. You know, I up the sheer number of horrible things in every game.
I mean, it's trophy. You're going to encounter some horrible things.
That's true. That's inevitable. I guess my star is just like everyone else. I mean, I've done quite a lot of Brindlewood Bay as a keeper, never played, never actually get to participate in theorize. Always I'm just recapping, you know, and I love watching people do it. And it's just, and I'm just impressed that it works in trophy. Like I've tried to do this as well with a friend. And I'm really glad that it works so well, and it keeps the same, it feels the same, you know, it's fantastic. And I'm really excited because I think people will use it for different things in the future, and that excites me.
You know, I have to, I'm gonna, I hate to ring my bell. No, I don't. I'm gonna ring my bell here a little bit and say that, like, after decades of the hobby being in existence, I really feel like I've managed to unlock mysteries in role-playing games. Like, I just feel like I've unlocked something that works really great, and it's so simple. And I'm really excited for people to keep iterating on it. You know, I hope people just continue to iterate on it and do cool things with it, you know, because I love mystery games and mysteries in general, but I've never been in love with the traditional mystery role-playing games, right? Like, they're not fun for me, and so they don't feel like you're solving anything. And so I like that this feels like you're actually kind of solving a mystery, right? Like, you have to kind of suspend your disbelief to some degree, right? But it feels good, and I'm continually pleased with how that goes. Sorry, I didn't interrupt you. Just, you know, I did, but sorry.
And it's interesting because, like, I wasn't sure, you know, because the PBTA bit of Brindlewood Bay is, you know, so familiar to me, having done Dungeon World and whatnot in the past. Just kind of, I like separating it from PBTA and it's still working. That just was just really good fun, and it did feel the same. Like, when we got to that point, it felt exactly the same. I think wishes as well. I'd very much like to see what happens with Garland's curse, and I have a feeling things are going to get worse for Horrorghast. But also, of course, there's the wolf-headed god who continues to haunt his dreams. So, and also, I'm just really like enjoying the characters. They've all taken on, like, treasure hunters have all taken on really distinct personalities, and I love how character progression in Trophy Gold and is like, it's about like building up that layer of history and detail, and it's much more satisfying to me than mechanical progression.
Yeah, I like that note too. This is something that, like, so a good friend of mine who I have a lot of. Oh, sorry.
My dinner just got here, so I got to jam.
Oh, no, it's okay. Bye. We'll see you, Jim.
All right. Have a great night. Thanks, everybody. See ya.
I'll just say real quick, and then we'll get going. Like, some of my friends who I've played lots of Dungeon World with, and I mean lots of Dungeon World with, they don't grok Trophy Gold right away. And one of the things is because there's not hard mechanical character progression, you know, like on the paper levels and things like that. Like, it's like they feel like something is missing. And I can kind of see that in a surface way. This makes sense. Like, I can, you know, if you look at the character sheet and you wonder, gosh, the only thing that ever happens to my character is they get more burdens, right? Like, they get more burdens, and their money gets, like, put in this, like, place they can never access it again, right? It feels punitive. But since we've had so many, like, long running games of it now, we've had so many sessions between all the various campaigns, I think you start to really see that there is character progression. It's just different. Like, it's a different style of character progression, and one that, to me at least, feels richer and more salient and significant than just, oh, I got 4 more hit points or whatever, right? You know. So anyway, so I'm glad that came through for you, James, because that's one of my. I feel like I'm always defending trophy gold in this way, so it's nice to like have that reaffirmed. You know,
I also love just how long you can spend on Hearthfire and how satisfying, intrinsically satisfying it is. It doesn't feel like, like a lot of end of session things seem like counting up your XP and, and in Dungeon World or whatever, it can, but it's a thing, an event in itself. And I find that very interesting.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great.
It's one thing I felt with Osto, especially, like, and I think it also comes from me. Like, I'm pretty new to role-playing games, so I feel like the Osto that is in the Saturday games now isn't the one who started. He has grown up in some ways because of what he's been through, and that's not reflected necessarily in his stats. And that's cool.
But it's there, it's definitely there. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. I will stop the recording.